So how you doing? We are in last year's constant canopy field that had the manure, then radishes and wide row wheat and soybeans, and we went to corn. And this is 3 crops in 2 years manure system, and I'll talk about it, kind of every little facet of it and kind of what we came across this year. So initially we want to get more of our manure on more acres, so lower rates scattered across more acres. And the key for that is to actually get uptake of those nutrients into crops. So using all the radishes and wheat, we can uptake that and get a transfer the next year. But what we saw this year in this field, we had crazy amounts of rainfall, and we had a lot of problems establishing a crop in our non-wheat fields. And you can still see some of that carbon left over here. We still got quite a bit of worm hills, and that kept that soil, even though we used shallow tillage, kept that soil from completely kind of liquidating and sealing over, and we had a better establishment. Because we put that manure out there, we brought the phosphorus level up on that field, the potassium level, and this had 0 P and K. And that's kind of the idea. If we scatter this manure, if we have relatively fertile ground to begin with, why are we putting so much on acres? This allows us logistically to get further away. So you've got a Flexier hybrid in 1311. We dropped 30,000. Because we could get better establishment, we can drop that a little bit lower. And we're standing in here in the tram line. You can see we were wet for a lot of the year. We did make some compaction here in the tram row. You can see my Hagee tires. With the tram rows, it's not about worrying about losing a little bit of yield in the tram line. And it's not about getting that yield back in these 2 rows. If you look at the way the corn reacts, this second row in is a little bit greener, can catch a little bit more sunlight, and it progressively, the corn gets a little bit more cannibalistic, if you will, because it can't capture the sun. So we're getting that lost row back in collectively 6 or 8 rows here. But because we have tram lines, now I can manage that system a little bit differently. First, on the herbicide, right behind the tire, we put twice the rate, so we're putting a half a rate of herbicide because of our 20-inch rows twice here, and we get a little bit of weed pressure here later in the year because of the sun trying to give you a little bit more pressure. But because we have the tram lines, now we can come in here and actually apply nitrogen when the crop is going to uptake it. So we bypassed those 24 inches of rain that we got in 2 months. Instead of putting it all out front like our neighbor's field here, we'll go across that here in a little bit, we waited to really stair-step that up, both our nitrogen and our sulfur, right before tassel. So the combination of the two and the more viable leaves as we go down gives you really exceptional kernel depth, especially in these tram lines that have viable leaves down low. So I got a little dime here in my pocket, dropped it, and we take one of these kernels out here. And what you're seeing is kernels that are as deep as a dime. So now, instead of the normal 85, 90, 95,000 kernels to make up a bushel, now we're at 65. So that right there transforms and adds bushels. So right before I go, we'll walk into the neighbor's field, planted the same day with just spring anhydrous. And this is actually a hybrid that I sold last year with Broadbeck 54RA13, same maturity. You can see the difference in the leaves, and this corn is dying rather than naturally running out of life and putting that black layer on. So again, it's not one thing in the system, and you can pick one thing out and kind of drag the puppy's nose in the piss and really worry about it, but it's the flexibility, it's the leveraging of the phosphorus, it's the residue, and it's just in time and applying things when they're needed and spreading those manure acres out across more acres. They're going to also get more value out of our conservative farm operation that doesn't really buy into the $400,000 or $500,000 planters, the $500,000 tractors. We just use what we got. We bought hog barns instead of equipment. So that's how we kind of manage and stay conservative and grow our crops. Thanks for watching.